I'm Alia. I've been a Muslim for 28 years. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 6 children. I'm a project manager for the British Islamic Medical Association, and I'm also the North Branch manager for Solace. I reverted 28 years ago. The process took about 4 years. Do you want me to carry on? I was agnostic for a while, didn't believe in anything in particular. Never really thought deeply about it. I had respect for religion, although I didn't entertain it or talk about religion at all, really. And it was only until I was about in my early 20s, I decided to take a gap year out before I went to university, and I went to Australia. And it was then, looking back now, I realised that I was searching for God. Not searching, but realising that there must be a higher power that's greater than me, that knows everything about me and everything about life. I was backpacking, and I was supposed to be working and backpacking my way around the country, but unfortunately it was a recession, and it was really hard to get jobs, and it was really tough, and I was going through a few tests. And I remember that as a backpacker, you party a lot, you drink a lot. And it was becoming very boring, very monotonous, very meaningless and empty. And I remember thinking, I can't tell anyone that I'm feeling this way, because I'm going to be putting a dampener on the party. So there must be someone who knows what I'm going through, that I don't have to explain myself. And looking back at that, although I never admitted at the time, I believe that was my process to believing that there could be a God or a higher power, at least at that point. There is quite a long process for me. It took 4 years, but quite a few amazing things happened during those 4 years. And one of them was when I finally got to university, during a semester break, I decided to go home and visit my parents. And my mum said to me at that time, she said, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I'm not being really funny, but I'd really like a Bible. And she thought it was a bit weird, but, cheap and cheerful, she'll get me one. And I remember when I first got it in my hands, I decided, right, I'm going to read it. And it was late at night. And I said, God, if you exist, show me a massive sign, make it massive, because if it's too small, it'll just go over my head. And I started to read, and I read quite a few things that night. One of them was a chapter called Ecclesiastes. It's about a lot of things, but I started to read, and it was about 12:30, and I thought, oh, it's getting a bit late, I'll just read for a little bit longer. The one thing that sticks out in my mind in that chapter was a verse that said, time here on earth is not as important as the time here in the hereafter. It really made me sit up and think, oh wow, is there a life beyond this life, once you've gone? That resonated with me, and I thought, oh, that's a different concept that I've not really thought about. So I carried on reading, and I thought, oh, it's getting really late, and I just went to bed. In the morning, I noticed that my watch had stopped, but this is telling my age. It was Sunday. There's nothing open on a Sunday back then. So there's no jewelers to go and fix it or anything like that. So I just left it. As the day went on, I was living with a born again Christian who came to me and said, I got you something for your birthday, and gave me a Bible. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I'd already had one before, from my mum. I just took it from her, and inside was an inscription, and she'd written that verse, time here on earth is not as important as the time here in the hereafter. And it was only then that I realised that massive big sign had actually been answered. If that's not a big sign to say that my watch had stopped and started again, and time here on earth is not as important as the time here in the after, I don't know what other sign is bigger than that. And it still took me a while for the penny to drop. That was amazing. And I just thought, oh, wow, okay. So I carried on my journey of sort of spirituality and soul searching and everything like that. And my born again Christian friend asked me to go to church, and I didn't really want to go. It was a Sunday, obviously. I went. I decided that I haven't got anything else to do, I'll go. And I went into the room, and everyone was sitting in a semicircle, and they were starting to pray out loud. And although I don't find that embarrassing now, I did then, and I wanted to leave. But then this woman, she was behind me, and she just started to talk. And she said, there's only one that you can put your full trust in, and that's God. And in that moment, I can only describe it as being a pure, clean light lit up from the core of my heart, the whole of my body, and slammed shut again within a split second. And it was so powerful that I sat up and I looked around, and I thought, did anyone else feel that? No one else had been affected except me. And to this day, that's a really powerful experience that I had. I knew it was from God. I knew that, but it was like I'd never realised until I had read a tafsir on a verse that had always made me a bit puzzled. I really didn't understand it. It was Surah Nur, verse 35, and it talks about his light and there being a lamp and then being inside glass and an olive tree and some oil and a light upon light. And I never understood that verse. I thought it was beautiful, but I never understood it until I read the tafsir. Then I realized that it's actually Allah's guidance, where He actually gives you light, His guidance and His light. And that's where the light of God had actually ignited the light that was very small inside my heart, which is my natural fitra. And it was, I was on this soul searching journey towards Him, and He had actually ignited that light to sort of illuminate the pathway, if you like. Amazing. And it wasn't until I'd finished my university degree and I went to Nottingham to do a master's degree that I met my first ever Muslim. I didn't even know it was a religion back then. We're talking about quite a few years ago. And it was only then that I realised that it was a religion. And I asked loads of questions. We just clicked, and I started asking loads of questions. I started debating with her. I was a bit of a feminist then, so it was like, I was asking loads and loads of questions. And it was after about 6 months period, I decided that I would take my Shahada, and that's when I became a Muslim. When I first said that I was going to become a Muslim, I actually rang my mum and I let her know, and she rang me the night before to say good luck. She says she doesn't remember doing that, but she did. And then after that, I think they would think it was a phase. And unfortunately, it hasn't actually sat well with my parents, me becoming a Muslim. My dad tolerates it, but he almost disinherited me because I had changed so much, I think for the better, and he'll probably admit that it was for the better. But there's certain things that I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't do certain celebrations and traditions, and I think that's what caused him upset. And he doesn't like the hijab either, so it's always been a bit of an issue. I have a twin brother who was forever mocking me, but he doesn't do that anymore. So alhamdulillah, it's a lot better than it was, but I think we tolerate each other if we don't talk about religion. The first thing that I struggled with, the hijab, because I'd never worn anything on my head. So I kind of wore it like a wrap. So it was twisted and you could still see my neck right at the beginning. And this is why you have to be patient with reverts, because, I wear it properly now. But I mean, I didn't then. For 6 months, it took me ages to sort of bring it down. And I was doing my master's degree, and all the way through that, I was sort of changing my appearance, sort of wearing more loose clothes and wearing hijab in the twisted sense. I finally said, right, I'm going to bring the hijab down now so that you see it much lower and covering underneath my chin and everything. I went into university and the administrator's office went, oh, so that's why you're wearing it. We thought you had cancer. And it was that moment I thought it really helps if to wear something properly so that you actually represent your faith properly, because all this time for about 6 months I've been giving the wrong impression. But anyway, alhamdulillah, the hijab was probably the thing that took me longest. And then I think the other thing that is a real struggle is having my parents and my brother, who I love dearly, not understanding my faith and not being able to talk about it without it becoming something that we disagree with. And that's the sad point. That's the most hardest, I think. Coming from a non-Muslim environment and learning about Islam, they come with, the majority of reverts, I would say, come with a genuine longing to learn and to worship Allah in the best way that they can. But they also have a lot of non-Islamic habits that they take in as soon as they take their Shahada. And it takes a little while for them to sort of move away from that lifestyle. And they need knowledge, correct knowledge, and a lot of patience. Some people with the best of intentions will actually bombard reverts with a lot of knowledge and books, and some people can be really harsh towards reverts when actually what they've taken on board is quite a lot already, and they just need a little bit of time and patience to sort of process things and internalize that and then make those changes. So I think that's what really needs to be people to be aware of, really. I've been a revert for a long time. I just know what it's like when you first enter into Islam, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So much knowledge, so many people giving you advice and tips, and you don't know what you have to sift through what's culture, what's politics, what people's preferences, to actually then realizing what the true religion is. The reason why I'm doing it is because I'm a revert and I want other reverts to know that it's okay. You're going to find your way, you're going to find your own journey. And your relationship with Allah is very unique between you and Him. It's not always going to be the same as other people's. So we're here to support you. Everyone's relationship with Allah is very unique. and to take your time and to just enjoy the process. Your relationship with Allah is unique and your journey is unique, but still valid and still important.